A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to yet another Zoom call organized by Jungle Bells. Jungle Bells is an exclusive women's wildlife group. We are into wildlife related activities, conservation, and tours. Before we begin, I would like to request all of you to turn your cameras off and switch off your microphones, please. If you have any questions for the guest, please type them in the chat box and we will address them after her talk. Also, if you want to receive any further communication about our events, please type in your email addresses and phone numbers in the chat box. Something about our guest of today's webinar, but before I introduce her to you, I would like to congratulate Aishwarya on receiving the Wildlife Photographer of the Year award and for being the first Indian woman to do that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So a little bit about Aishwarya. Aishwarya Sridhar is a 24-year-old award-winning wildlife filmmaker, photographer, and presenter who loves to explore the wilderness. Her debut documentary was telecast on DD National, India's state-owned broadcaster, and has helped protect the last remaining wetlands of Mumbai. She is working with the local fishing communities, NGOs, and the state towards policy-level protection for wetlands in Maharashtra, and is the youngest member of the State Wetland Brief Documentation Committee. During the COVID-19 lockdown, she directed and presented an 8-part digital series for WWF India, which focuses on inculcating the love for wildlife in children through origami. Recently, she hosted Nature for Future on Discovery Channel India, a unique wildlife chat show focusing on India's most endangered species. Her work has been featured in international and national newspapers and magazines like BBC Wildlife, Guardian, Mongabe, Digital Camera, Times of India, Sanctuary Asia, Savis, to name a few. She also regularly dabbles as a podcast producer and hosts with Wildlife Collective for their show Earth to Humans. So many credentials for a very young Aishwarya, and we're delighted to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so without further ado, I will hand it over to Aarti. So we will start with our a few questions for Aishwarya. Yeah, Aarti.
रख सके
I think Aarti is speaking on mute.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that.
It happens.
Okay. So I'll start again, I guess. Very happy to have you, Aishwarya. And like Himani said, congratulations on winning the prestigious award.
Thank you so much.
You've made us all very proud. So I think we'd like to start with, some questions which seem very obvious, but I think our viewers would still like to know. And the first one being, how and when did you, start photography? Like, what attracted you to photography, and then specifically wildlife photography?
So I think my whole attraction and love affair with nature began when I was very young. I stay in Panvel. So Panvel used to be a very green place when I first moved in. So we had a lot of streams and mountains, and there used to be a lot of wetlands surrounding Panvel. So as a child, I remember with my father, I used to go birding a lot. And those early formative years growing up with nature inculcated the love for nature within me. And I remember I first saw my tiger when I was 10, and my first tiger was like this huge male from Pench, and he came walking straight. In the normal safari language, it's head on. So my first sighting was so beautiful that I fell in love with the big cats. But I didn't have any camera then. So I pestered my father so much that I wanted a small point and shoot, or any camera for that matter. And he gifted me a very tiny camera for my 11th birthday. and that started my journey with photography. So the camera became my favorite toy, and I used to carry it on all my adventures from then on. And slowly my love for clicking also developed as I started exploring the whole world of photography. And then I progressed from a point and shoot to a DSLR, and I still shoot on a DSLR. I haven't gone to the mirrorless range, but I really love clicking photographs. I feel that the photographs can give voices to species, and they kind of act as ambassadors for our endangered wildlife.
Absolutely. That's great. So you did visit forests with your parents. I mean, your parents are also interested in.
Yes, they're both wildlife freaks, both my mom and dad. So,
I'm sure that helps as well.
yeah.
So that was going to be my next question. That how did you manage this whole your parents' support for the for the photography angle? Like, how did you manage your studies and travel and all of that?
So my parents probably knew it coming that I wanted to do something different. At one point, I was a little confused when it came to like choosing my career as such, and I wanted to initially I wanted to do CA and then something else. So um, maybe after my 10th standard, I realized that I wasn't fit for a 9 to 5 job, and that I would not be able to join the normal routine and just sit and come back, go to work, come back. I really loved being outdoors, so that made the switch. Maybe that kind of motivated me for the switch, and I told my mom and dad that I don't want to pursue commerce, because I was earlier a commerce student till to my 12th. But they said, fine, whichever career you want, you pick that, as long as you are happy, and finally what matters is your state of happiness. So I said, fine, I want to do something different, I want to go into the media line. So they said fine, and I then joined mass media in Mumbai University. And then after completing my graduation, I decided to go full time into wildlife filmmaking and photography as a job.
Okay, that's great. It's very few people are fortunate to really understand at such an early age that what they want to do, or what they don't want to do. At least if you
Yeah.
understand that, then it narrows things.
Half the problem is solved when you understand that what you don't want to do.
Exactly. Okay. So then how did you get interested in conservation? And can you tell us a little bit about your wetland conservation effort at that Panje, in Navi Mumbai?
So I have been visiting Uran for quite a lot of years now, and over the number of visits that I have gone, I've seen the whole place transform. So it's literally moved from being a birder's paradise to becoming a concrete nightmare. And the transition is very, very dramatic. It's drastic for that matter. And for me, when I see that, I really feel that what are we doing? Are we like on the right track? On one side, we're facing the sixth mass extinction, we have climate change, that crisis. Now we have a global health crisis with the pandemic. So is this all because of our own actions and the fact that we haven't been respecting nature? So take for example Panje as well. The entire Uran belt used to have about 1,000 to 2,000 hectares of mangroves and wetlands, and that whole portion has today been destroyed, and only one wetland remains, which is Panje. It's about 523 odd hectares of land. And even at Panje, Reliance is going to build a huge luxury complex that's coming up, luxury residential complex. And when I got to know about that from the local villagers, that's when it really struck me that I didn't want to lose this one habitat that was so close to my house, and this probably was my one birding getaway from my house. And maybe call it selfishness, but I really didn't want to lose that. So that's when I thought, what should I do about it? So I was racking my brains a lot, and that's when I felt like maybe we can put together a short documentary as such, a film. So then again, I didn't know video editing at all. So I had to learn that from the YouTube and various other tutorials. Got to know about it, then put together my first documentary, and I uploaded on YouTube itself. So the film became quite a lot viral, and a lot of people across India woke up to the fact that these wetlands need to be protected and saved. They started messaging me, and then I showed it to Sidco as well. But Sidco, who's the local developmental authority, they were like pretty condescending towards me, because I was a lot younger then, maybe 2 3 years younger, and for them, they felt like you're just a fresh graduate, might as well, you go and concentrate on your studies, don't think about saving and protecting environment and all, do a job, that's it, why are you getting into all of this?
Right.
And I was pretty shocked. I didn't expect that response from a developmental authority who goes by the slogan that we make a green city, and there was no way that Navi Mumbai was getting greener. It was only getting more and more brown and
Okay.
blacker each day in terms of the reducing green cover in the place. So then there was this point where I decided to involve media to highlight the issue. So we went over there at Panje, I remember 2 3 years back, and the media, I had promised the media that it's going to be a very beautiful wetland and a lot of birds, flamingos. I had thrown some exotic bird names to them, and they were like expecting of something no less than a Bharatpur sitting there. And we go there, and what I saw was complete opposite. There was no water on the wetland. It was completely dry. There was not even a crow in sight. I have some pictures. Let me share that with you all.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, so this is how, so Panje initially looked like this, which was a very green wetland full of water, a lot of birds. But what happened was we discovered that 71 sluice gates had been installed across the main inlet of tidal waters, and these sluice gates still exist. Only the thing that has changed now is that the flaps have been opened. You see these yellow flaps?
Yeah.
So that is what controls the movement of the waters. So the flaps were arranged in such a way that during high tide, when the wetland used to get full, these flaps would shut, so thereby blocking any inflow. And during low tide, they would open, and whatever water was left on the wetland would also dry out. So even the surrounding mangroves had completely dried up. So I decided to take photographs of these and come back home. I Googled, and I found out that there was this uh, Bombay High Court order which had protected the mangroves, and destroying mangroves is actually contempt of court. So I wrote to a lot of environmentalists, NGOs, the government, the mangrove cell authorities with these pictures, which had GPS tagging obviously on them. And that's how then the media took up the story. It became a very big highlighted issue. And finally, Sidco had to relent, and they opened the gates, and the wetland was restored. But this battle is still on, though you can say a few battles we have won, but the main war is still on. Right now, Panje is the Sidco and Reliance have put security cabins, and birding is stopped at Panje, and photography as well. So the local fishermen are not allowed to fish. And apart from being an ecologically sensitive zone, Panje is also an important fishing ground for the local fishing communities. So they depend on this wetland for their livelihood. And we're not talking about one or two fishermen here. We're talking about over 2,500 fishermen and their families. And so the loss of this wetland would not only impact human lives, but also wildlife. But these people don't seem to understand that. And that is extremely disheartening, because we talk about big economic policies and change and Central Asian Flyway. We have COP summits, COP 13 summits as such. But when it comes to implementing action on the ground, hardly any is taken.
Right. Totally.
So I find that really, extremely sad for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so wonderful to see you being so passionate about it because someone has to take a step, and we need more people like you, I think, more youngsters actually, who will take initiative in these kind of matters.
Yes. I
So,
think the young people have to step up. I
yes,
mean, we are the future of the planet, so it's high time we understand the value of our own home.
yeah, totally, totally. So, okay. So you're saying that for now the water part has been restored, but
Yes.
there's okay.
You photography is banned. You can't go birding as well. Whenever I go to Panje, there is always a security guard who follows us and who tells us you can't shoot or you can't film over here. And then my reply would be that I'm going to continue filming because I don't care. This is God's creation, and this is not something that an ex a corporate can block.
Right. It's not a private, yeah.
Yeah, and this also comes under CRZ1, which is an eco-sensitive zone. So you can't have actually development taking place on the Panje wetlands.
Okay. Cool. So I believe initially you were thinking of, joining the Indian Forest Services, but then, you thought that maybe you could make a difference even just through media and photography. So, can you tell us how you've been able to do that, whether you've actually been able to achieve what you thought you would be able to?
Initially I wanted to do IFS, but then came a point where I wanted to do CA like my father. So I was a little confused then, but maybe I got clarity when I finished my 10th standard board exams, and we went on this holiday to Tadoba. And after coming back, I realized that I would never ever be able to be a part of this 9 to 5 routine. And even being a IFS officer, I somewhere knew that your hands do get tied in the corporate, in the whole bureaucracy structure as such. And you really don't have maybe the level of freedom that you might get if you are from the media. And being able to influence policies was always something that I want to do, but I felt that being a wildlife filmmaker and storyteller, I can do that a lot better because I can show people what is going on and why do they need to save our ecosystems and our wildlife. I feel that while in terms of visuals, the visual medium is one of the most impactful and the strongest when it comes to evoking emotions. When I show you something, you really understand that, and you begin to love what you understand, and you would really want to protect what you love. So when you see something, you understand that a lot better, and it really leaves an impression in your mind. So being a visual communicator, I really felt that this is probably the best medium in which I can influence people, and I can also bring about the impact that I want to bring out in society.
All right. That's a different way of looking at it, like you said, instead of like changing things from the outside, as they say, if you
Yes.
cannot do it from the inside. Right.
And you're somewhere, your hands are tied when you are part of this entire bureaucratic chain. But being a person from the media, like because initially I was also wanting to be a part of the nerdy, and I was a very studious child as in my young days, but still I felt that the media is very very powerful. And also I have seen a lot of documentaries on National Geographic and Discovery, so somewhere that whole idea of bringing your film to the entire global community, like making a film on an issue and then broadcasting it to the entire global community as such, would be much better than being able to bring about change in just a localized area. Because even if I do IFS, I get posted for maybe one particular reserve, but I
Right.
could not bring about a change across the entire nation. Whereas with of being a filmmaker, I can.
Right. Yes, we have just made a film on Maya, right?
Yep.
And that's
My
being
favorite.
it's being aired on National Geographic, but I think it's not yet released or premiered in India, right?
No, it's not yet come in India.
Yeah, so we are waiting for that. And that was going to be my next question. That was it a natural progression for you to just, move on to filmmaking from, photography? And
Yeah, actually it was because initially I started with photos, but then my first film was supposed to be Maya, but I could not complete it, and that's how it became Panje.
okay,
Otherwise, normally my first would have been Maya because I started that before Panje.
okay.
But so we all, I'm pretty sure whoever's on this call and whoever's seeing it may have visited Maya and Taroba, and probably Maya is your favorite tigress. She's beautiful, she's gorgeous, and everyone I think who looks at her falls in love with her. And the same thing happened to me as well. So I saw her when I was 15, and since that day, I think in the first time I uh, caught a glimpse of her, I have been madly in love with her. And there was this incident in her life when she brought back Gabbar, her former mate, to overthrow the intruding male, which was
Okay.
Matkasur. And that whole thing, when that it played out, to me it was like a Bollywood drama in
Right.
front, and I really wanted to highlight her life on a global level. So I thought, why not, I have a couple of videos with me, why not just put them together and see what I can do. But I obviously didn't have a story at that point, so I waited a lot of years after that. And then when I felt I had sufficient material, and then I sat down to do the story part of it.
Okay, that's awesome.
i'm
We're waiting
glad
for you.
I'm glad it's coming on National Geographic.
Yes. I hope it comes to India soon.
I hope so too.
So what are some of your future projects? Do you have anything in the pipeline in terms of filming or?
I do. I have a number of projects in my pipeline as of now. I'm doing one for Canon. Then I have another series that I'm working on, which is on India's endangered primates. So that is another thing that I'm working on, and a couple of others as well who are in the scripting stage as such.
Um, so, viewers, before we ask Aishwarya to share some of her, special photographs and special memories about the photographs, I just want to tell you one more time that if you have any questions for her, please type them in our chat box. And if you would like to receive further communication from us, please type in your emails and your phone numbers in the chat box as well. We'll address the questions at the end of the session. So to me, this is the most interesting part now, just looking at some of your photographs and listening to your stories, Aishwarya. So over to you.
Okay. Um, so here I have a few images. Like, I have so many images, I don't know which to pick, but I have managed to pick about 11 of them.
That's all.
I hope you'll like it. So
Do you think you can maximize? Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
that.
did that. So this is the highly endangered line-tailed macaque. This is, you can find them in the jungles of southern India, and they're endemic to the Western Ghats. I went there just before lockdown while I was filming the line-tailed macaque, and being with them, like, they are so playful, and I really find macaques to be one species which are like so close to humans. They are super expressive, and you can get some amazing portraits of them on field. This is the alpha male that you're watching on screen. So he decided to, like, really be bold and check me out when I was sitting on the ground filming. So he came really close, and this was actually shot at 18 mm lens, at that focal length. This
Yeah.
was that close for me.
Close to you.
Yeah, so he yawned, he gave me a beautiful yawn. So this is that. This is the Asiatic lion from Gir. So Gir is the only place in I think perhaps whole of the world where you can spot the Asiatic lion in their natural habitat. So I had gone there recently after lockdown ended for a break, and you have these two male lions. So in Gir, you have something which is very different from the African pride. So the prides live separately, and the males live in forms of coalition. So these two males, who are part of one coalition, they decided to get playful. Although they are pretty, they are not sub-adults, but they are like just into adulthood. They decided to get playful, and this is one guy snarling at the other, telling him, "Stop, I don't want you to mess with me anymore." They were slapping each other earlier.
Oh, okay. It's wonderful.
um, this is a caterpillar, a moth caterpillar. Now, when I really like clicking macro, because you can get really creative with them in terms of lighting and such. So these kind of moth caterpillars, they come on my almond tree during the monsoons. So this guy I found, he was like, he had finished eating almost half the almond leaves on the tree. So I decided to like light him up from the top and underexpose the shot to get this lovely black background and the green highlighted
Yeah.
in the
It's
frame. Flamingos at Talave in Navi Mumbai. So you
gorgeous.
have the wetlands of the TS Chanakya and the Talave wetlands near NRI complex in Navi Mumbai. And during the lockdown, this image was taken during the lockdown, in fact. Over 1.5 lakh flamingos visited this wetland, and whatever you see, as much as your eye can go, it is just pink.
Yeah.
There was seeing the water was difficult. The number of flamingos were that high at the wetlands this year. And it's probably because of the fact that we have destroyed all the other remaining wetlands for them, and there are very few places where they can go. So these are like a few remaining patches of land that they can go. And flamingos, by nature, they can only survive on a mud flat, because that's how they are designed to feed, with their beak inverted while skimming the waters. So I took this from an aerial perspective instead of taking ground level shots, because ground level wasn't doing the kind of justice to the numbers of the flamingos. So this is from an aerial point using a drone.
Okay.
Maya, my favorite Maya. So she is no doubt the queen of Taroba. I got her in this is ticket 97 for those of you who are regular to Taroba. And it was early in the morning. I remember when we were on our circuitry route. We finished a 97 in the first round. Moment we entered, finished Pandarpani, but we didn't get her at all. And I was really wondering like where would she be? I was trying to follow her, and then suddenly I remember my guide Vinod. He told me, let us check 97 once again, because from that direction alarm calls are coming. So we went again in that direction, and the moment we entered 97, there she was, bang, in front, sitting and drinking water. So one of my closest encounters with Maya would be this, because she's one tigress who's bold and who is not afraid to be in front of the gypsies. In fact, I feel she loves the camera attention that she gets. She literally loves the wildlife paparazzi on her.
Yeah.
The latest internet celebrity of the birding community,
Yeah.
Amur Falcon. Oh, there was this whole wave that everyone was going to Lonavala to click the Amur Falcon. So I said, why not try it out? And I too went and got some amazing frame. This on your screen, you're seeing the Amur male. So usually what happens with the Amur falcons is that they travel a huge distance for migration. So they come from areas like Russia and Siberia, and they travel all the way to Africa to their wintering grounds. And on the way, they make a stopover in India. But I think this is the first time that they stayed so long in Maharashtra. And about 4 or 5 individuals were there. So the male is very colorful as such in the Amur falcon family. And this fellow was itching and we just went berserk, burst mode, and we got this lovely pose I got of his.
Yes.
The Eurasian sparrowhawk, again clicked at the same Lonavala grasslands. So this, I really loved the way this one bird was sitting against the whole field of pink. The flowers really added to the frame, I felt. So that's how I got this shot. Mostly in bird photography, what you can do is when you try and approach close to them or be on the ground and approach like really slowly. I had to crawl a lot to get this image on the ground.
Otherwise, it scares them, I guess.
Yeah, it scares them and then they fly away. This is the Indian gore from the tea estates of Valparai. So I wanted to kind of give a perspective as such that the gore is part of the habitat. So only the gore's horns and part of its head and body are visible. I purposely went like real eye level of the gore so that I could get only this in the kind of a frame that I wanted to convey was this is their habitat. And the animal is part of the ecosystem. So the tea estates of Valparai are one place where you do find the Indian gore, and you have the lion-tailed macaques. You have elephants also who regularly visit these tea estates as well. But one thing that's really remarkable is the fact how humans have learned to coexist with these animals over there. There's absolutely no conflict as such. And this is Lights of Passion, the Firefly image, which was awarded at the Wildlife Photographer of the Year competition. So I had to walk a lot in the forest of Bhandardara to get this one shot. And I remember it was in the month of June, and it was a split-second decision that I decided to, go and photograph fireflies there. And after trekking a lot, I came across this one tree which was completely lit from top to bottom, and they were going in waves. So the only way I could capture them in waves was to kind of do a stitch of the images later. So I took about 27 to 30 images in consecutive frames, and I amalgamated that to get this one shot. And initially my few frames that I did click, I was not very happy because it was a very tight perspective of only the tree. So I wanted to do something different, and I was searching and I saw the stars in the sky, and they were completely shining bright like the stars on earth, which were the fireflies. So I pulled them together in one frame and ensured that there were star trails as well as the fireflies in the frame.
Gorgeous. This is your award-winning image,
Yeah,
right?
this is my award-winning image. It's called Lights of Passion. A wild ass at Little Run of Kutch. So after clicking these wild asses, I remember I went towards to click the flamingos, and I got badly stuck, and I couldn't come out because it was quite like slushy, and my legs were I literally sank inside, so I had to be pulled out after that. Yeah, so this is Nilgiri Tar, again at Valparai. So you have these tars can be found on the hairpin bends as you climb up to reach Valparai. But a lot of times what happens is that though vehicles stop for these tars, they come really in close proximity to moving, like fast moving buses or cars for that matter. So you have these road signs in between which say that these are the tar crossing points. So one of these stars decided to walk up right up to the crossing, and I could frame it in literally one frame, which has the crossing as well and the Nilgiri Tar as well.
Yeah.
I think that is it. Yeah.
Okay. So it's wonderful images, Aishwarya. I mean, it all depends, I think, on your perspective and how you
Yes.
want to photograph things.
Yes.
A lot of it depends on that, how you compose the picture.
Yeah.
So Do you have any advice to the young photographers?
Just keep practicing, keep clicking, and I think the more you practice, the better you become. I still have a lot to learn, but I would really like to tell you all that, to all the girls out there as well, don't feel intimidated just because you want to go for a career which is unconventional. Just take the plunge and work hard. You would definitely achieve success.
Yes, I mean, I think it's very important. There are very few women photographers, you know,
Yeah.
the community is overall dominated by men. So that,
Yes.
yes, it is helpful to get advice from a woman. Uh, all right, I think anything else that you would like to share with us? Or,
Please do watch the Tiger Queen of Taru
yes.
when it comes on Nat Geo Wild in India. I will, and please follow me on my Instagram. My ID is chiku_wild. So you all can, it's CHIKOO_wild. And I will keep posting updates about the India telecast as well. So you can follow me there and you will definitely know when it's coming to India.
I think in your school days, Aishwarya, you've done a lot of educating of children, right?
Yeah.
I read somewhere that you used to visit schools and uh, give presentations and talk about conservation. So,
Yes.
okay.
So during my school days, I had this thing that during Earth Days and Global Tiger Days, I used to have these programs for kids, which I used to organize across schools. So I've spoken to about 40, 50 schools around Mumbai and conducted these programs, talking to kids, college students, school children about the need to protect our environment, about the ill effects of using plastic, and why should you plant more trees. So we've had workshops, we've had tree plantation drives, we've had poster making competitions, we've had film screenings as well. So a
Okay.
lot of activities I've done in with school children as such.
That's wonderful. I mean, like we spoke earlier, you know, the youngster really need to be
Yeah,
educated about. And I think that was a part of our Jungle Bells idea that we figured that if we, you know, educated the mothers or tried to get them interested in wildlife, I think it goes
absolutely.
down to the children.
Yes.
They will inculcate that love in the children.
And not only that, like you said, mothers have a huge influence on their kids.
Yes,
So when the mother itself is made aware, they would obviously pass on that awareness to their children
right, exactly.
and also to their other members of the household.
Right. Yeah, that's why we, you know, try to do programs. Some of our trips are just women only because we want them to
Okay.
take a break as well. But then we try to do the smaller trips where we'll allow children, you know, to accompany. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So the flamingos, we showed us a picture. They come to Big One here near Pune. That's our
Yeah.
closest place for us to visit. So we always do a couple of trips there in a year, so that that's the easiest getaway. You know, it's half a day. You don't have to spend
Yes.
much time,
Yep.
because that's another thing we've realized, that women find it very hard to take time out from their schedules to go
Yeah.
on longer trips. So at least if we can do some short trips and get them to, uh, you know, go out. But you're saying that Panje no longer is open, right? To
Panje is no longer open for photography. Like you can go there, but the moment you enter the wetland side, you have these guards coming in and they tell you that you can't enter and you can't photograph. So what I do is I try and sneak around that and go into places where they can't see me. But I
right.
still continue clicking there because it's important that I keep a tab of the place.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you never know when illegal landfilling can start and the whole
Yeah.
wetland can disappear.
Right.
And they can fill wetlands very quickly. Like there used to be one near the Belpada side, and within like 1 week, the entire wetland was gone.
Oh, okay. That is, yeah.
So I saw it on Sunday when it was it was full. There was no landfilling done. Next Sunday when I went there, there was no wetland.
Oh,
It was just rocks and mud. That's it.
yeah, that is very scary to see
So
that thing.
I'd like to ask Aishwarya about which gear she uses, as in terms of camera and the lens.
Equipment.
And
okay.
also, do you like mammal photography more, or you're more into bird photography?
It's mixed. I like both.
दिवसातले 15-17 तास तर वाया घालवले.
And
पूर्वी
there's
8
no
तासापैकी तुम्हाला 2
such
तासही अभ्यास करता येत नाही.
Sorry. Okay, you can go ahead.
And there's no such preference as such. I like all animals and birds in wildlife. Like it can be animals, birds, insects, even landscape as well. So I like an amalgamation of everything. In terms of the gear, I use my Canon 5D Mark III. I have a Canon 600 lens and a 1DX Mark II, and I have a 100 400 as well, and macro.
Yeah, you do macro photography
Yeah,
as well.
I do macro as well.
That's awesome. I think practice, like you said, is the key to
Yes.
getting good
It,
shots.
it's you, the more you practice, the more well versed you are with your camera settings on field. So you can, like, it becomes changing the settings at like a normal
On the go.
activity as such, on the
Right.
go, instead of looking and then wondering which aperture, which ISO, which shutter speed to set. I shoot in manual mode, so for me,
Okay.
with practice now I can look at a situation and say this aperture would work, or this shutter speed would be perfect, but otherwise initially I could not.
Right. But did you
Prior,
take any formal training for photography, or did you
no,
just learn it on your own? Okay.
completely self-taught, or I'm a Google's child when it comes to learning photography and filmmaking as such. uh, so because even in Mumbai University, when you even take mass media, they don't have a specialization in filmmaking or photography.
Okay.
So although you have photography as one of your subjects in your second year, I think, but you only learn the basic principles as such. And it's mostly the textbooks teach you how cameras work in terms of the first camera that was started, like the way heliograph, how photography started with heliography, and then there was this daguerreotype and all. It really doesn't teach you the way DSLRs work.
Okay.
So it
Yeah.
mostly, it comes into history of photography, but doesn't like kind of concentrate on what you should do now.
Right.
And there are hardly any practical assignments ever. It's mostly textbook knowledge, mugging, and writing your paper.
Yeah, agreed. Our syllabus definitely probably needs to be updated.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be updated.
It was wonderful talking to you, Aishwarya. And I hope you visit Pune soon so that we can,
Yes,
meet you in
I
person.
hope so too. I would love to do big one.
Yeah, absolutely. We can plan. We are actually planning a trip at the end of February. So
Okay.
maybe we'll keep you informed. And if you
Yes, please
wish
do
to
that.
join us, that'll be wonderful.
I would love to do that.
All right. We'll definitely keep you informed. So thank you again for taking the
Thank
time
you.
out and joining us. Would also like to thank Sanjay Deshpande of Sanjeevani Developers. He's our mentor and support, and keeps suggesting all these wonderful people for us to bring on our
Wow.
webinars. And
Thank you,
Anuj
Sanjay
as
sir.
well, who's our partner. He couldn't be here today, but I believe you know Anuj really
Yes,
well.
I do. I do know Anuj sir very well.
Yeah, so hopefully he'll also be able to accompany us to Big One, but so we can do one big fun
I
trip.
and I hope the Amur place opens up.
Yes, that too. Yes, I know they have stopped allowing people to go there.
Actually,
Yeah.
there is lesser kestrel also there, Aishwarya. I don't know
Yes,
if you
I
visit.
want to go there and click the lesser kestrel. Last time I got only the female. I didn't get the male. But you can't enter the place anymore. I think Anuj sir has to do something.
Something about it. I know we have been talking to him. Anyway, so thank you again, and yeah, we
Thank you,
hope to
ma'am.
see you.
Thank you so much.